Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, and today we're talking to a ultramarathon runner. His name is Aum Gandhi. It feels like we're transported into a different galaxy. When I started to talk to him, I know how to run 26 marathon races, the regular distance, 26.2, but going ultra is something totally foreign to me. Introduce yourself a little bit. Maybe don't intimidate all the listeners too much. How can a regular person with a 9-to-5 job get into ultra running, or where did you start? These are the topics that I would like to uncover today.
I'd love to dive into that. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Suzanne. A good place to start with introducing myself is that I'm a regular guy that just loves to run really far and eat lots of good food while doing it and seeing lots of good views and doing it with lots of amazing people, because community is a big part of what we do as well. That's the Cliff Notes version of like who I am. There's so many aspects to balancing the 9 to 5 and the things that you have to do in training and balancing that with all the aspects of your life. So I'm definitely excited to dive into that.
Where did that all start for you? Is as a young child, or how do you get into ultramarathon running?
Well, I didn't actually start running until 6 years ago. I'm 30 years old now. I didn't start running until I was 24. Growing up, I was very much an unathletic kid. I did have a lot of energy when I was a little kid, but as I grew up, I became very sedentary. I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle. I was overweight by almost 100 pounds at one point and just struggled with eating habits and was always like the last in the mile at school and did not like to run. Even when I did team sports, I saw running as the punishment. Sports was not my thing. I went on a weight loss journey when I was 18 years old because I had a scare with pre-diabetes. Diabetes runs in my family, and the doctor told me I had pre-diabetes and I was on my way to getting it. I started to work towards losing weight, struggle with eating again, but had my fluctuations of like weight up and down. And flash forward to when I'm 24, maybe 25 years old, and I'm working a high stress engineering job, just struggling to find control in my life. I was just looking for an activity or something that I could control. For the first time, I picked up something strictly for mental health reasons. And that was running, because it was as simple as getting a pair of shoes and wearing some workout clothes and going outside. I remember one night I went outside after another long shift at work, and I did a quarter of a mile as fast as I could. I remember feeling really sick and really tired after it. Even after that, something kept bringing me back to that. And I had quit on so many other things so many times that I just thought, what if I stick to this one thing? What if I try running for 5 minutes straight, then 10 minutes straight, then 15, then 30? And I signed up for a 5K, then I signed up for a half marathon, and it was just one goal to the next. And 3.5 years ago, when it happened and the world and most people were trying to figure out who they were and struggling with, the world just stopped. I got into trail running because I had started backpacking and I was training for my first marathon, and then the world shut down. I didn't know what to do, and I found trail running. I started to pick up trail running, and I started to listen to authors like Richstone, David Goggins at the time, Katra Corbett, and just started ultra running and signed up for my first 100 miler and worked towards that. And it's just been on nonstop since then. And 26 ultra marathons later, here
It's almost like a different addiction. First, it's the weight loss, which I think is the hardest. because we cannot just stop eating. You still have to fuel. And now you said you're running because you can eat.
How do I prepare for a 100-mile run where I want the most important thing for a 100-mile run versus a shorter distance or a marathon is just the amount of time on your feet and training, because you are going to be out there for over 24 hours. If you are middle of the pack or back of the pack, you're not going to finish the 100 miles in a day. Depending on the terrain, you can be out there even longer. But you have to get used to being on your feet. And you also have to balance that out with lots of easy runs, lots of long runs, back-to-back long runs. Believe it or not, speed is also very important too for long distance running, because you have to also work on your upper range as well. Talking from the perspective of somebody who started this when they were also working a high demand job and working a 9 to 5, I think that the most important thing, if you don't have time, is trying to get as much time on your feet as possible. If you're struggling with motivation, signing up for shorter races like a 50K or a 50-miler and working your way up in the distance and making that part of the training to give yourself those little carrots of motivation to keep pushing forward.
I don't think I can be awake for 24 hours or more. How do you train for that? So it's more the mental aspect. So obviously you have to adapt your pace a little bit, because after 26 miles, you have another 60 or so to go. But how do you train your mental strength?
The mental strength just comes from just trying and giving it a shot. A lot of it comes, for me, I don't consider myself the most mentally tough person. A lot of my mental toughness comes from the confidence of training. If I do the work in training and I have done like my back-to-back long runs, I have realized what the soreness feels like in training. I have trained my nutrition. Maybe I've done a shorter race and I've made a mistake and I learned from that mistake. I feel more confident in knowing that if there is a problem, then I'm going to be able to solve it and keep moving forward. The biggest thing with these races is realizing that you're not going to be able to avoid problems. When I first started doing these races, I thought that success in a 100-miler was avoiding problems as long as possible, being comfortable as long as possible. Now I realize that success in a 100-miler is when you get to that discomfort, how do you handle that discomfort? But you have to accept that there's going to be discomfort, have a neutral mindset of like solving the problem of, is this a foot issue? Is this a nutrition issue? Hunger, thirst, and just doing it and finding a way to just keep moving forward. As you've already seen from this conversation, there's so many parallels to life. Things can get hard, but as long as you keep moving forward, they will get better again. A lot of it is just finding a way to keep pushing.
I always say it's one step at a time, one day at a time, and take one step in the right direction forward, because who goes backwards? People are like, this is easy. Well, but if you think you're on your feet for 24 plus hours, you get tired. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore. How do you get out of this? This is not easy. I really admire you. What do you tell yourself? Do you have any positive affirmations?
I'm very fortunate because I not only have some internal factors, but I have external factors as well. Starting with internally, I am always telling myself, I always try to stay away from the big picture. I try to focus on getting to one aid station at a time. I try to focus on 1 mile at a time, because one of my favorite mantras is that I can't do 100 miles, but I can do 1 mile 100 times. Even a physical representation, anybody who's watching this, if you go to your sports watch or your Coros or your Garmin, you can go to the average pace option instead of looking at your total mileage and just focus on the mile that you're in and the pace of the mile. And if your goal is to do 15, 16-minute miles, then you can just focus on that 1 mile at a time, 1 mile at a time, and just watch how the time flies. Other affirmations will change depending on the race. You have to tap into a variety of emotions when you're out there for a long time. So sometimes I'm tapping into a lot of gratitude, a lot of joy. Other times I'm tapping into more darker emotions. I'll prove them wrong and this, and I'll show you how strong I am. That's normal and that's accepted, because we as humans have a wide range of emotions. So we should be able to use and harness all of them, because that's healthy. Externally, I run for a charity called Richstone Family Center. It's a charity in LA that prevents and treats child abuse, domestic violence, and generational trauma. Very close to my heart. I've known them since 2016. I started raising funds for them in 2021. When I get to a point where none of my internal mantras are working, I think about all the kids that I'm fighting for, and I think about what they would want to see in a role model, as somebody who's like them. One of my favorite mantras is for the kids. For the kids.
You can get that in your head. I'm doing it for the kids, for the kids,
For the
for the
kids.
kids. One step, one step, one step. Tell us a little bit what you did in April. Major endeavor you took on when we first met.
We had talked shortly before I went off to Scotland. I recently finished a three-day stage race, multi-day format. So not a continuous format, but a sleep in camp every single night format. It is a self-sufficient format race. So like the famous Marathon des Sables, where you have to carry all of your sleep items, your gear, your medical, all your food for 3 days. And it was a 125-kilometer race in Knoydart, which is in the Western Isles in Scotland. It is considered Britain's last wilderness. The population on Knoydart and the only town there, Inverie, is 110 people. And the only way to get on that island is if you take a ferry to get there, or you have to do a 2-day remote hike to get there. It is just a crazy experience. This is probably, of the 26 ultras I've done, probably in my top 3 of one of the hardest I've ever done. And it was just an amazing experience that I shared with 32 other people who became the only other people who understood what I did and became my family from all over the world. It's just an unbelievable experience.
And where did the people all come from? So 2 people feels like an extended family is getting together, but you're also doing something incredibly crazy, if I may use that word.
They came from all parts of the UK. There was somebody I made a new friend from Estonia. There was 2 runners from Germany. There was a runner from Switzerland. There were 3 other Americans besides me. And there was somebody from Romania, I believe. So they just came from all corners of Europe, the States, and it was just amazing meeting people from different backgrounds.
I'm always amazed when you look at the running, and it can be 5K up to the ultramarathon or whatever you have done, what the people's background is. I'm a running coach, and I was training people in Central Park of New York City. You meet people like teachers, CEOs, they work in restaurants, they work in hospitals. You would never meet such a diversity of people if you go to a conference, let's say.
One of my favorite things about running, and especially trail running, is that the mountain does not discriminate. The mountain treats everybody the same. When you get out there, whatever weather you're doing with, whatever adversity you're doing with, it doesn't matter what your background is. You are all bonded together in that adversity, and you're all brought together no matter what your skin color is, no matter what your background is, no matter if your day job is an engineer or an artist or male, female, just a big, small, like it doesn't matter. When you come to that, this sport just brings everybody from different backgrounds together, bonds them together. Because one thing I will say, for example, with the Highwind Ultra is within 1 hour of meeting the people at this event, even the day before we started racing, we were sitting and having conversations, and you can look at them, make eye contact with them, and realize that they're doing this for similar reasons to why you're doing it. And they carry some of the same values that you do, because there's a certain thing that you're looking for. I believe the term is like a delayed gratification, which is a difference between, and it's a common talk about alcohol and other vices versus running as a vice. There's the instant gratification, and then this is more of a delayed gratification. There is a sense that everybody in this group wants to do a hard challenge and test themselves. They want to put themselves through a challenge, and they want to grow from that challenge. And you can see that these people want to do that from the moment you make eye contact with them. And then over the next few days, you take that already established bond and you create an even stronger bond with these people. It feels like you've known them for years. I can't tell you how many times, you must have experienced this too. I can't tell you how many times you go to an event you spend time with people and then it feels like you've been friends forever. That's just how the running community feels to me. It's a very special community and I'm just grateful to be a small part of it.
And what do you take into your everyday life? Tell us a little bit of your maybe boring life, less running, glamorous life. What is your ultra marathon in 9 to 5?
My ultra marathon in 9 to 5 is actually a 24/7. I'm a business owner. I run a endurance sports media company called Run Try Bike. We are the premier voice of the everyday athletes. We're a multi-sport platform to tell the stories of everyday people. You don't have to be on a podium to tell your story. You can be anybody because we believe that everybody with everybody has a story and everybody has a place at the start line. And I'm fortunate to do what I do as a owner of that business. Lucky that it ties into what I do with running as well. We've had this conversation before because you interviewed on our platform, and there is a strong connection between the endurance sports mindset and the entrepreneur mindset. I would not have had the courage to leave my 6-figure job as a tenured civil engineer in the federal government to pursue marketing, a total 180-degree spin from what I did previously, being a business owner, because I think that entrepreneurship is 24/7. It's very difficult. You have to constantly be moving, finding ways to move forward and adapting and moving forward and going through highs and lows is the foundation of ultra marathons as well and endurance sports as well. Both are interchangeable and they both feed each other. Things I learned as a business owner help me as an ultra runner. The things I learned as an ultra runner help me as a business owner.
What are those things?
Exactly. It's the ability, it starts with the ability to accept that you are going to be uncomfortable, in my opinion, from what I've seen. And what I also did myself is that we naturally gravitate towards trying to become as comfortable as possible. Realize that if you don't find challenges yourself, the challenges will find you. The biggest thing that endurance sports has taught me is to be able to be comfortable in being uncomfortable and knowing that it's a normal way to be and it's part of growth. And it also ties into the concept of failure is a big thing as well. Failure is very often stigmatized. People think that failure is like the end. You can't fail. We see it in our social media as well. We see the hack to success and do these 3 things and you'll become a millionaire overnight. Mm-hmm. And it just, we know as no matter what we do, especially you and I as endurance athletes know that there is no hack to success. You just have to show up every day and some days your 20% will be your 100% and some days your 90% will be your 100% and some days you have it all. But if you show up every day and you're willing to make mistakes and deal with the highs and lows and keep pushing forward, then you'll grow and you'll be able to take on those challenges. And one day you'll look back, for me, it's imagining like a climb up to a ridgeline like I did in the Highland Ultra. Every once in a while, after 45 minutes, I would look back and think, oh my goodness, look how far I've come. But I wouldn't have known I climbed that much if I was just focused on where the next flag is or where the next goal is. But I turn around and I see, oh my goodness, look how far I've come. The ability to do that, the ability to do hard things is very important.
Amazing wisdom. We never got to what is your favorite food now that you did the ultra marathons. What do you eat during the race, but then also after, and probably after you need to replenish? How do you reward yourself?
During a race, for 100 and 200 mile races, I definitely love all kinds of potatoes and I will eat anything wrapped in a tortilla, like eggs, beans. I definitely love my potato chips. I love a lot of Trader Joe's food, like the Scandinavian swimmers are my favorite. I love a good candy. Then I'll supplement that with my Hammer nutrition products. I balance all of those out and I'm able to do what I need to do with that. And post race, I get tired of all that food. I can't stare at a potato for a long time. I can't look at potato chips for a long time or pretzels, or I just can't look at race food for a week after finishing a race. So for me, it's like getting a nice warm meal. I love a good pizza. When I finished the Highland Ultra in Scotland, I am vegetarian, so I can't have haggis, but the people in Scotland said there's very good veggie haggis. So I had that. It was very good. Of course, found my way to some very good Neapolitan pizza places, had very good margarita pizzas. I ate my weight in French fries as well.
And what's next for you?
I'm starting the Triple Crown of 200s, which is a goal that I've been working towards for 3.5 years now. As long as I've been an ultra runner, almost, I have been working towards since 6 months since I started my ultra running journey and did my first 50K. I signed up for the Destination Trails Triple Crown of 200 milers. So that is in June, that's the Tahoe 200, in August, Bigfoot 200, and in October, the MOAB 240. And the goal is to finish them all in one calendar year, 8 weeks apart. I've been working towards that for the last 3.5 years, and it's finally showing up in 7 weeks, starting with the Tahoe 200. One more training block, and it's time to get into it.
Good luck. And it's one step at a time, one day at a time. Thank you so much for all the great insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a cool conversation. Let's go for a run. Let's start with a quarter mile. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday. Chime in, learn from others, be inspired from others. And also, Take It from the Ironwoman is the book, Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Download it or get it in your local bookstore. Thank you for your support. Like us and subscribe on all the social media platforms where you can access the podcast. Thank you so much and see you next time.